Bonjour, Tansegia.
Hey, how are ya?
It's a smudge for your thoughts.
With Gehiases.
And Zosha.
So today we had the immense pleasure of speaking with Serene Lawrence, the COO of 8th Generation. I was fangirling because I'm obsessed with 8th Generation, and I was so excited that she was willing to speak with us on this podcast. We had such an amazing conversation about educating, about Native, like real and authentic Native art, and raising up, Native artists around the country. That's what they do with their company. They have wool blankets that feature a bunch of different Native artists.
Yeah,
artwork.
so we'll get into that kind of stuff in the episode. We don't really want to share too much.
I was getting excited.
Yeah,
Sorry.
she just was so excited during this episode.
So you will hear a lot of great points being made and just a lot of great talk. So
Yeah, well, we hope that you listen and enjoy.
Peace. Cool, we're recording now. You want to start off, Tone?
Sure. So first off, thank you for joining us, and welcome to A Smudge for Your Thoughts.
Woo!
So our first
Thank
question.
you.
Yeah. So our first question is, what is your name? Where are you from? And how do you identify yourself? Your tribe, nation, band, citizen of, or anything, however you identify yourself.
Sure. So I want to just say hello to you guys. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Serene Jamingwa Lawrence. I am Hopi as well as Ojibwe, and I am from Minnesota. I come from the urban Indian Twin Cities, Minnesota community, which is a really fun and powerful and dynamic urban Indian community. And currently, right now, I am living in Seattle.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And working at 8th Generation.
That's correct.
Yeah. And you are COO of 8th Generation, so that's super cool. So first, or I guess our second question is, which I already kind of said, but what do you do for a living? And also your passion or any hobbies you have.
Absolutely. So I'm honored to be the Chief Operating Officer here at 8th Generation. It's really awesome to be a part of an organization that values having Indigenous leadership. Myself and a man named Louis Gong, who founded 8th Generation, together we lead our Native operated company here in Seattle, 8th Generation. And what's really cool is, we've recently been bought by a tribe. Yes.
That's
so
awesome.
It was a really exciting journey, from Louis starting the company by drawing beautiful artwork on shoes. The demand for his artwork became so much that, he started the company 8th Generation. And he wanted to work with people, specifically Native artists and Native people, to spread the message about why it's important to support Native artists and why it's important to support authentic Native art rather than the very commonly seen fake Native art out there.
Yes.
So that's a little bit about what I do on a very brief level. But I'm also really passionate about, my culture and education as well. So I come from, a background of being a part of a family that has connections to many tribal nations.
Awesome.
So I was raised with my mother, who's Ojibwe. And so I'm really passionate about, learning to bead, learning some traditional art forms, learning about our traditional foods, learning about our history and our tribe. So that's something that's really important to me. I'm also a jingle dress dancer. So that's another thing that I'm really passionate about is keeping the culture alive and creating space for our community where we can all be together and kind of feel good and celebrate who we are all together. And it's been a really tough year where, that wasn't a part of everyone's lives.
Mm-hmm.
But that's definitely something I'm really passionate about. And I think it integrates well into the job that I have now.
I love that. That's really important, to, stay in touch with your culture and like keep passing it on and making a space for other people to do so as well. I love that.
Me too. I really love eighth generation so much and like what you guys do. Um, I do have a couple questions about what you said. You said that eighth generation was recently bought by a tribe. What tribe was it bought by?
Absolutely. So, eighth generation in 2019 was sold to the Snoqualmie tribe.
Oh, okay.
And the Snoqualmie tribe is one of over 30 federally recognized tribes in Washington state. So, where we are is a really beautiful place because there's lots of different tribes. And Snoqualmie is located, I'd say, about 45 minutes away from Seattle, where we work. And
Okay.
so it was a really perfect opportunity for us to share our success and share our mission to do bigger and greater things with a tribe that also has those same goals and those values. I can't say enough good things about the Snoqualmie tribe. One of the things that really motivated us to work with them, as you can imagine, there was definitely interest from other tribes as well when it came time to transfer ownership from Louis to a tribe.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that Snoqualmie um, has these really good values that they show in their political decisions, such as right before they purchased Eighth Generation, the Snoqualmie tribe purchased the land surrounding the sacred Snoqualmie Falls, which is a very well known tourist and natural spectacle here in Washington. Snoqualmie Falls is also in the Snoqualmie creation story. It is the site of their people's creation.
Okay.
And so, shortly before acquiring Eighth Generation, they actually purchased the rights to Snoqualmie Falls and all of the land around Snoqualmie Falls so that they could protect it from further development. And, that really spoke mountains to us about, their tribe's values and their ability to kind of put their nose to the grindstone, band together, and make things happen that is in the best interest of not only their lands, but their community.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been a really awesome team to join, joining forces between the Snoqualmie tribe and the Eighth Generation team, who are all really, I would describe as go-getters.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a really awesome thing. And we're still in the process of organically figuring out how to work together.
Okay.
It's not common for a tribe to own a company like Eighth Generation. But it's really exciting because they really believe what we do and they want to support us. So we're grateful.
That's super awesome.
Yeah. So you guys have culture like ingrained into what you guys do. Could you explain why you chose the eighth generation name?
Ooh,
Yes,
I like that.
absolutely. That's a great question. As you mentioned, culture is definitely at the forefront of how we look at the world.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, our founder, Louis Gong, he's actually mixed race. So he was actually raised by his grandparents. He had a native grandmother and a Chinese grandfather. And he grew up in a house with, no running water on the Nooksack Reservation. And so, that's kind of the roots. So you can appreciate kind of how far we've come as a company. And when it came time to decide on a name for the company, Louis was really inspired by his own heritage and ancestry. As I mentioned, he has Chinese ancestry as well as Native ancestry, and he grew up in the Nooksack tribal community. So he likes to say that his inspiration was the concept of seven generations, which I'm sure you guys have heard about,
Mm-hmm.
which is, for those who don't know, a framework for making decisions about how we go about life,
Mm-hmm.
where we take into consideration our impact on the seven generations that come after us, as well as how we're honoring the sacrifice and the legacy that the seven generations before us had made possible. So by naming our company, eighth generation, it's kind of an acknowledgement to the seven generations that came before us, but also linking back to Louis' mixed heritage. In Cantonese culture and in their language, the number eight is almost identically pronounced to the word for prosperity. And so often a lot of Chinese businesses incorporate that numeral eight in their business
Interesting.
name. And it's commonly referred to as a very lucky number. So for
Okay.
him, it was kind of like a coming together of both of his cultures into one name, eighth
That's
generation.
so beautiful. I knew about this, that it had something to do with the seven generations, but that it links to so harmoniously, I guess, to his Chinese heritage is so beautiful, and that he was able to make that connection. I mean, there's so many beautiful connections between different cultures, and it's really nice when you can honor both of them, and that's really cool.
Absolutely. And I know that that's a struggle for a lot of people out there. Everyone I would say has some mixed ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of, his greatest accomplishments was, doing a lot of education about the validity of people with mixed heritage and identities. And that really tied into the foundation of the education that we do a lot through our work here.
Okay. Cool. Can you talk about the like the education that you guys do through the work? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that education is at the forefront of the reason why we're in business.
yeah.
The whole, premise for starting our company was, realizing that there was a lot of fake native art out there. And kind of seeing it for what it is and realizing that there is an opportunity to, you know, um, support authentic art, and then also, most importantly, the artists themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And things as they were for native artists was a really tough way to make a living, without access to a lot of like technology, without access to mentorship, and business building. We've seen that a lot of artists from our community who are so talented often just don't have access to sell their artwork directly to customers. And we feel that those artists deserve, control and to benefit from the demand for native artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what we're always trying to tell people is that, you can make a choice between if you want to support Native artists and authentic Native artwork, or if you want to support, you know, companies that, don't work with artists and they don't have authentic art. They may Google, some Navajo rug weavings, and then they'll just copy
Mm-hmm.
those designs. And we really feel like that's not, within our morals or values. And so we're always having conversations, and it's really fun for our team to kind of break out of people's stereotypes about who Native people are, what they look like, what they can do, and kind of our potential, to be honest. And so we're always telling people we're advocating for artists, we're advocating for respectful collaboration of artists, and we're advocating to support authentic art and artists.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times, it's not as straightforward of a conversation as you would think, because a
Hmm.
lot of people really struggle to see the difference.
Yeah, I could see that because there is such a norm, like the tribal pattern or like the tribal design, stuff like at Pier 1 or something, like everyone wants that style. A lot of people want that style to look like they're cultured or something, but not know like, you know, the history behind it because it's fake. Um, and then so it's really important work that you guys are doing and then how I love how when you buy a blanket, you get the little card, the bio about that artist that designed it. And that's like my favorite part. Well, not my favorite part. The design is my favorite part, but because they're so beautiful. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that you enjoy it. I mean, we love to share with people about the artists that we work with from all over the country.
Hmm.
So really, I feel like we're not really selling products, even though, that is how we stay in business, but really we're selling information, about who we are and why it's good to support Native artists if you
Hmm.
like Native arts.
Yeah. Yeah. That's important. I like that.
So you did talk a little bit about this, but uh, maybe I mean, yeah, you talked about it a little bit, but what inspires you to do uh, the work that you're doing? Why
Yeah. Why
personally
is
do
it
you
so
do it?
important? Yeah. Why is it? Yeah.
Sure. That's a great question. So, for me personally, I come from a family of Native artists. As I mentioned, I come from a family of dancers and jewelry makers, beadwork artists, birch bark beadwork artists, um, carvers, and painters. So for me, it really started with my own family. And I think that there's a lot of people out there who know an artist in their life and love an artist,
Yeah.
and want to see them succeed. And so for me, that's really organically where my passion and inspiration to do the work I'm doing comes from, is that, I like to tell people we all know an artist, and do you love that artist? If you know and love an artist, then you should be like on board with kind of our mission to support inspired natives rather than native inspired. Um, and for our founder Louis, of course, I mentioned that he's a native artist himself.
Yeah.
So in his experience, he used to go through some less than stellar experiences, collaborating with companies who wanted to use his artwork.
Mm.
So the stories that came out of his collaborations with non-native owned companies, and the way he would have his art taken from him. He wasn't really involved in like the design collaboration process, which
Yeah.
is very educational.
Hmm.
And he wasn't really ever compensated fairly for his artwork. And so that was really the genesis about how we operate now, because we want to operate in a way that is kind of correcting those wrongs. I would say that we pride ourselves on kind of setting the gold standard for how to work with Indigenous artists. It's never been done before, and it's really cool to get to collaborate as a intertribal staff with Native artists from around the country, some of whom even have connections to our own personal and familial communities.
Hmm.
And so for us, it's always really exciting to meet artists, kind of talk about our goals, and really just take ownership and agency with our artwork,
Yes.
to benefit not only our native owned business, but then these native artists. And I really do believe that we change artists' lives. Some of the artists that we work with have gone from selling, beaded earrings in parking lots, or, at the powwows, to making, six-figure salaries. And we believe that Native artists are absolutely worthy of, all of that business. And it
Yes.
should not be funneled through non-native owned companies,
Mm-hmm.
and it should not only be funneled through galleries,
Mm-hmm.
because that's just not something we've seen artists really make a sustainable living off of.
Mm-hmm.
There are, I would say, a handful of artists that do make a good living off of that model, but it's really not inclusive. You kind of see your stars out there of native artists that frequently get all the opportunities, while other artists struggle. And so
Mm-hmm.
we're here to kind of correct that.
Yeah. And also on top of that, I think with the few native, stars that are getting into galleries and making a good living on that, I I know that at least a lot of the museums that I've been to, like they're kind of put into that Native American art section. Like they're not able to just be like contemporary art, which I think is so, the other thing I think is so cool about Eighth Generation is like, especially the design, the ResCat design, stuff like that, where it's like very, it's like contemporary. You don't have to be so confined into like what, you know, the white America sees as native, you know what I mean? So I think that's really cool too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I totally agree. And a lot of times it's fun because we have a store at Pike Place Market here in
Yes.
Seattle,
Hmm.
which is an international
Huge
tourist
place.
destination. So oftentimes, we get to have conversations with people from all over the world who have never met a Native person, unfortunately. And, we definitely do love like blowing their minds. Like
Uh-huh.
you said, Native art doesn't have to be pigeonholed. No
Hmm.
artist should be pigeonholed.
Hmm.
And a lot of times we are meeting people from all around the world that think that, Native people's art should look exactly a
Hmm.
certain way. It should be made a certain way. And it can only be showcased on certain, items.
Yeah.
And for us, we're like, no, we're contemporary people, just like everyone, except for we have, been blessed with so much teachings and culture and values that make us move through the world differently. But
Hmm.
at the same time, we're excited to, see authentic art on blankets that anybody can enjoy.
Uh-huh.
My earrings, for example, like
I was gonna say, I think those are, yeah,
this
I
is
can
supposed
see.
to be, ledger art.
Hmm.
But it's like, why not put our art on anything that we can?
Hmm.
Because the market and the demand is out there.
Hmm.
And we believe Native people shouldn't be boxed in. And so I love what you said.
Great. Yeah, I think that's, like you said, Native people are contemporary too. And like you said too, like I love that way you worded it. Like you're just blessed with the culture and the teachings that allow you to move through life a different way. Like, more grounded, more connected to your roots, and but you just so happen to have amazing art along with that. It's not that you have to be tied to this old art only.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that something that kind of makes us a little different as well as contemporary Native people in business, which is very rare to see, is that we do a lot of give back. And that's something that also comes, from our values that we were taught from our families and our grandmas and grandpas. Um, the importance of giving back is so great for us that we're always really excited as a small Native owned company to share our success, by helping out the community in whatever way we can, especially during times of need. So that's something, that people aren't used to. Sometimes a lot of people think Native people are charity projects or, not successful or not capable. And we exist to, counter all of those stereotypes. So we really pride ourselves on being a company that was started by a Native artist that now, donates personal protective equipment to clinics around Washington, donating blankets to victims of the wildfires. financial sponsoring of all sorts of community events. And this is just, we're really blessed to be able to do that. So I just kind of wanted to share a little bit about
Yeah.
like, we're not always just about selling an education, but we're also about giving back.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's so awesome that you guys do so much for so many different people out there.
Yeah.
Um, and that's why we wanted to do this podcast, is to break that stereotype of people and like educate people about natives and other indigenous people around the world. I mean, we're we're here, we're continuously evolving. We're not just like set in the past, and that's something that a lot of people. I mean, I've definitely uh, felt that way about other indigenous people as well. Whenever I went to Vietnam, I had a thought in my head. I was like, oh yeah, these guys are all going to be on wagons and riding around on ox. And I mean, there were people that did that, but
Right.
they had like skyscrapers and they're driving around on a bunch of like mopeds, and
Yeah.
they're contemporary all over the world. I mean, we're not just set in the past, and that's something that we want to continue like educating people on. And I'm so grateful that you guys do that as well.
Yeah, and I was checking out some of your previous guests on your
Cool.
podcast, and I feel the same way. Like, I love to see contemporary Native people who are kind of breaking barriers
Yes.
and, being the first, Native owned construction company, Native owned IT support. Right now, I feel really proud to be a part of a time where I see more representation of Native people. And I feel like we all may have hungered for that when we were younger. At least I know I did. So I feel like we might have like a common, I guess, a common desire to, educate others about what Native people are capable of here and now.
Hmm. Yes,
Yeah,
I love that.
I love that so much. But we're gonna move on to our next question. You mean you've definitely touched on this a lot,
Hmm.
but it is, how do you stay connected to your culture, and what does it mean for you to be the tribe that you are?
Hopi and Ojibwe.
Yeah, the Hopi and Ojibwe.
Yeah. So, like many Indigenous people, I find myself, far away from my communities of,
Mhm.
the Ojibwe community is back in the Midwest area. Um, we have beautiful lakes and forests and deer. And then, on my Hopi side, all my family's down in the desert and the Pueblos.
Mhm.
Um, and I know that that's a common situation for a lot of Native people, especially when there's very few opportunities for education and work on our reservations. So basically, something I pride myself on is that I, am the product of two Indigenous people that had the courage to journey away from their reservations and their families to get a good education and a career. But that can also come with a lot of you're missing your family, you're missing your connection to your culture, especially during 2020. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. Some ways that I keep in touch with my culture is that I'm really lucky to have a few Indigenous friends, family friends, even, or people I've met through work that I can talk to, especially when we're going through a year where we saw a lot of racism kind of bubble up to the surface. For me, it was so important to have people who shared my cultural background that I could talk to.
Mhm.
um, and then, of course, if you're blessed to have family, that's kind of the main way that I keep in touch with my culture, is, Skyping or Zoom calls with my family. Um, and they share with me like what they're working on, and they encourage me
Oh.
to, do artwork or write or learn how to sing or learn how to dance. Oftentimes there's also just so much online that people can utilize to get more connected with their culture. I always tell people, like, if you're interested in learning about, your indigenous language, like, check out some Facebook or, Instagram or Twitter social groups just dedicated to language learning. I love seeing the efforts to reclaim and preserve our language. So apart from, joining online communities and kind of trying to connect and keep in touch with your family,
Mhm.
um, you know, I would also recommend to just try and express yourself creatively. I think it can be a great outlet to be connected with your culture.
Yeah.
And then, of course, just your reading about your history, I think is really important as well. To be informed about your community really helped me feel connected.
Cool.
So those are just some tips that I incorporate to try and stay connected to my culture.
I love that. That'll be so, great for I think some of our listeners who maybe want to connect more. Like one of our previous guests, actually, we haven't released the episode yet, but they are getting currently more connected, learning about their culture, and they do a lot of online search, researching. So it's really amazing that there's that tool now. And like you said, like Facebook groups and stuff, like there's so many great ways that people can get in touch, not just, if you're away from, isolated from other people in your community or in your tribe or nation.
Yeah. And I think that during the pandemic that there's been an effort to make those resources available
Mm-hmm.
online. I'm starting to see lots of like free information guides
Yeah.
on, all sorts of like museum or cultural center websites. People are doing virtual events and, virtual speaking events like this one. Um,
Yeah.
so it's a really cool time because I feel like a lot of people are really yearning and searching for that connection and the peace that comes with that connection. So it was a great question. And I think, yeah, there's no one right way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely a journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet. Um, and, oh, I guess I'm throwing the next question. um, so this is kind of similar to some things you were talking about, I think. But so how do you navigate through this colonized, space, this colonized world we live in, with your customs, language, traditions in mind, in order to succeed in your job or in your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would just say it's really hard. It's really hard. But when I say that, I know that it's probably really tough times for everybody. As an Indigenous person, with all of our teachings and our stories about how to act right in this world, always influence me. And there may always be, a different perspective that you're in the room with
Mm-hmm.
that can make, holding true to your values and your teachings really hard. Um, and it takes, I would say, a lot of courage and a lot of fortitude to kind of put yourself in an uncomfortable situation, even if it's just a different cultural setting. Um, and a lot of years were spent very quiet, for me, being mostly raised outside of my community. I had the experience, and I'm sure a lot of people have, a lot of Indigenous people have this experience of being the only Native person in the room at school or at an event or really any public space. That can be really hard. But what I do is I try and live by those seven grandfather teachings that I was taught when I was little. Some of which include, bravery, being brave enough to, you know, go out in the world and try new things, speaking up for yourself. Another value is like truth, humility. These are those guiding kind of teachings that help me navigate through this colonized world. I feel like almost anybody can get some great advice from the seven grandfather teachings, whether they're indigenous or not. Um, and then I would say that, of course, prayer really helps me. And I know prayer is not for everyone. But I also know that I was taught that every person has, four components to their being that you have to really be cognizant of and manage how you're doing in those four areas. And those four areas are your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, and your spiritual health.
Mm.
And so all of those different things, you could be doing really well physically, but you could be really suffering mentally. All of these parts of yourself need to be fed in different ways. So keeping that in mind definitely helps me make it through, because it's definitely been hard, a tough year for a lot of people.
Yes, it has been, and then especially so like trying to stay connected while also staying, successful in our capitalist society. So I love that though, like that, the seven grandfather teachings. I haven't heard those before, but I love, the bravery, humility, truth. Like those are definitely, like you said, something that everyone can use. And those are so important to stay connected, just like grounded, you know what I mean? Especially when there's a lot of negative things going on or just kind of
Yes.
hard things, difficult things going on, challenging.
Exactly. I mean, I think, like you said, if you have like these values to be honest and brave and truthful, even when you're really struggling and going through challenges, if you know that you're at least meeting those standards for yourself, then that's at least something that you can fall asleep knowing and take into the next day and pray to Creator about.
I love that. Yeah. Like doing the best that you can to be a good person. Yeah. And healthy. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. So, thank you for everything that you just said, and sharing it with us, like your personal beliefs and the way that you were taught. I mean, that's not everybody does that, and I'm really grateful that you're honest and open with us and answering our questions and everything.
Try to be those seven grandfather teachings. I would recommend a Google after this if you want.
Definitely
Yeah,
want to.
there are definitely a lot of what is that resources out there, and
Yes.
not just on social media, but the Google is your friend.
The Google, yes.
Even like looking up tribes. I mean, going not this time, but going to different tribes and like talking with people. I mean, we're not just we talked about this a little bit in a previous episode, but we're not just here for just going to a celebration or going to a ceremony. We're here all the time. Come and talk to us, not just at those peaks, but all the time. Come and talk to us, and most likely we're open about talking. And I apologize, we haven't actually talked about our blanket, but you have the same blanket up, and we didn't we haven't talked about this in our episodes. So
what? Yeah, we have.
No, we haven't. We say it's eighth generation, but we don't like talk about the artist or anything like that. So
true. I did say that was the Confluence blanket.
Yeah,
but that's it.
Yeah, I know. There's so much information to share.
But I was gonna say if you could talk a little bit about the different artists that you guys work with. If you could shout out a couple.
I know Sarah Agaton is one.
Yeah,
we have an interview with her tomorrow.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah,
That's
and
so
John
great.
Pepion. Yeah.
Good, yeah. So, yes, we are really blessed to collaborate and work with some amazing artists. And boy, there's so many amazing artists in Indian country. And so we started out working with Ojibwe artist Sarah Agaton House, I would say about 5 years ago. And she is that success story that I mentioned before,
Okay.
where she went from being a hand beaded earrings. She would sell them to her friends, like meet up in parking lots and like,
Mhm.
give them over in a little sandwich bag for like $40.
Yeah.
And since we teamed up with Sarah, we realized we had really common goals for having authentic Ojibwe, in her case, artwork out there on the market. Um, and she is that success story where she went from selling earrings in parking lots to making well over six figures
That's awesome.
through all of the products that she has made with eighth generation, and through the products that she's learned to create after our collaboration on her own. And
Awesome.
so it's really exciting, especially for me as an Ojibwe woman, to see us working with an Ojibwe artist and seeing how our collaborations have really ignited a fire in her
Mhm.
to be this incredible businesswoman who's also an artist and a mother as well. And now she's a homeschool teacher, which
Cool.
she'll tell you about.
Nice.
Um, and she's been on her own journey as well, all for many years of reclaiming her culture and um, making her connection to her culture more strong. So it's great to see her succeed. And then we also work with, as you mentioned, John Pepion. Um, that is a huge blessing for us. He's Blackfeet and currently based in Montana. And we had been big fans of John's artwork for many years before we reached out to him and had a similar conversation about, what his goals were for his art. If he was, interested in becoming what we call an arts entrepreneur. And he really was interested and and so we've collaborated on so many products as well. We've helped him set up his own website, created a logo for him, and helped him create all of the products that Eighth Generation as well as John Pepion has. And through our collaborative process, not only is he now, the owner of his own business, but now consumers can reach him and his products and support him directly
Yeah.
through his website. And the same goes for Sarah. These are artists that did not have a way to connect with the consumers
Mhm.
before us, we at Eighth Generation had reached out because we believe that Native artists deserve to be on par with any other business.
Mhm.
And they don't deserve to have a middleman, which is sometimes the gallery owners, and sometimes it's just a non-Native owned company that wants to license, artwork from a Native artist to sell. Um, so it is awesome getting to work with John. I think you'll love your conversations. He's so funny. So is
Good.
Sarah, that being said. So you'll have a lot of laughs. It's always good to have them out here to Seattle where we work with them on their design ideas and we make things happen. And that's something I'm really proud about. And we teach them all along the way. So we kind of plant a seed with them to eventually see them grow into their own business owners. And it's just awesome for them as well as consumers who want to support artists and want to buy authentic native art.
Mhm.
And then I have to shout out one more artist,
Yeah, do it.
especially, which is Michelle Louden. She's from Acoma Pueblo down in New Mexico, and she comes from a amazing family of artists who do everything from traditional carving to pottery, um, and you name it. And so her designs often they incorporate pottery motifs that have a lot of important meanings into the products that she makes with eighth generation. And it's been great to see her be able to catch that entrepreneurial spirit and learn how to run her own business as well. So, this is why I say that I do believe that we really change lives, especially of Native artists, And we empower Native artists in a way that no other company really does. Um, and so those are kind of like the main artists we work with. But that being said, right behind me is an example of an artist from Alaska that we work with. We work with, I would say, over 30 artists from all over the country. And our goal is to just keep on, doing more and more. And so the future is really exciting.
That is so exciting. Yeah, I just love all that you guys do, and like you said, how you empower Native artists to not only express themselves more and also get fairly compensated, like more than fairly compensated, I'm sure. But also, like you said, like become their own entrepreneurs, like really get into that, because then you're building a legacy, and that's how, you can pass that on. And yeah, so that's great.
Yeah, we really do try and work hard to support the artists. And sometimes, like, we all have each other's cell phone numbers, so we'll be texting each other all throughout the week about like, hey, I got an offer from a museum for this amount. Like, what do you guys think? And the 8th Generation team kind of acts as a mentor,
I love
especially
that.
especially Louis Gong, who's really, achieved a lot of success as a Native artist. He's always ready to pass on any advice that he knows, because he has been in the position that they have been in. And so oftentimes we'll tell artists like, no, you're worth way more than that. Or like, don't do that because you can do it themselves. You don't need to rely on somebody else to do it. Here's how to do it. So that's really fun.
That is awesome. I love that you guys are just not only being a business partner, but like you said, like a mentor, like a friend, someone to really just have their back, help them make good decisions, or the best decisions, for them that are fair.
And
Yeah.
that's definitely, like, I feel like we need more of that in our Indigenous communities. That support, that mentorship, that willingness to share knowledge. We always say here at 8th Generation that for us, money isn't really like the most important reason why we got in this. It was really about recognizing the value of knowledge. And so that's why I mentioned that education is at the forefront of what we do. But then it's also about like educating the Native artists that we love and cherish and we know deserve the support and the success that many non-Native companies have taken up space in the market with a lot of fake Native products.
So I just thought of a question, or something I want to ask you. So how do you guys like go about choosing, or finding people to work with, or how do people kind of like for maybe some Native artists out there that are listening, like do people take their art to you, like send it to you, or is it kind of more of a thing where you guys look around and find people that you want to partner with?
Yeah, that's a great question. We get asked that question all the time. So we're really blessed to be on a lot of people's radar. And there's still a lot of people that don't know about us. But I just wanted to basically mention that we do get asked that question quite often. And we've actually had to develop some formal ways to start a collaboration process with artists. Being that we get artist inquiries, every week via phone, email, Facebook message, Instagram message, personal DMs to our personal accounts. We've developed a way where we have a contest about every other year or so, where we make a call for artwork. And that's when we're really asking anybody who does any sort of art to go ahead and send us an email with some examples of your artwork and a little blurb about who you are. So that, if we don't know about you, we'll see your artwork and, potentially reach out for a collaboration. And there's definitely a lot more that goes into how we select the artists as well. Other than just, knowing about artists and getting exposed to different artists. Because even sometimes when our staff, like myself or our founder, go to community events, people are just introducing us to artists and artists that they think we should work with. And it's quite overwhelming.
Yeah, I bet.
And it's, a really blessed position to be in. But we do have the blanket contests, and David Robert Boxley, whose blanket is in your office as well as mine. He was one of the winners of our previous 2018, I think, he was the winner of our blanket design contest that year. And it was just awesome, to see the artist's face when they see their artwork on a wool blanket. Just really awesome, because I'm sure you all know about the important role wool blankets play in, Indigenous ceremonies and really important life events and even death events for our community. So it means so much, to artists to have that opportunity to be involved and to see their artwork used in a good way.
Yes.
That supports artists. So
I think that brings up a really good point about why I do love 8th Generation so much, because as I've learned after, being with Cohesive, I see how important the, wool blankets are in ceremonies. And it's really, really great to see that there's a company that makes so many, beautiful blankets that people can use that are actually made by natives. So I think it just makes it more, meaningful and, just beautiful that way.
Yeah. And our goal is to kind of have a little bit of something for everyone. And this is going to take us a long time to get there. But, another part of kind of something we consider when we're working with Native artists is there an area of, Turtle Island where we don't have any artwork, from that area to offer to anyone. That was one of, the reasons why we chose to work with David Robert Boxley, is because we currently didn't work with an artist from his region. And so, there's a lot of different factors that go into who we decide to work with. And as I mentioned earlier, when I was talking about working with Sarah Howes and John Pepion and Michelle Louden, there also has to be like a alignment of goals, art-wise, and also just like a personal component as well.
That's what I think is also very just great about your company, that you really do cherish those alignments of, personal goals, like what your personal, ideology is and how you think the world should be, like your personal, what's the word?
It's like your values are
your values. Exactly. Values. There we go. I was thinking of a different word, but that's what I mean. Yeah. So
it's definitely a lot of hard work that goes into making these things actually come to fruition. So but it's a beautiful thing when you can meet and come together with people that do have those aligned goals and values and are willing to put in the hard work to make it happen. That in itself kind of narrows the scope of, some of the peoples within your circle.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, this brings us to our last question, actually, because the
time has gone by so fast. I've been enjoying this conversation so much.
Too.
I really enjoy talking to you.
Yeah, you're a wonderful person to talk to. I mean, you have so much to say, and it's the work that you do is beautiful.
Yeah.
Educating people and bringing people together and showing people's artwork that you may never have seen. I would have never known about this person if we didn't go to your website and go on.
Yeah, exactly. And then we could look at their own personal, collection too. So it's great.
And the collaboration that you guys do, helping out other people, I mean, that's so powerful. And thank you so much for coming on and Again, thank you. Like we love
Thank you,
that.
thank you. Yeah.
But so our last question is, what do you wish to let our audience know about your tribe, your community, the work that you do, pretty much anything? What's just what do you want to say?
Well, I would just encourage, everyone to, I would, on a personal note, I would say I would encourage everyone to kind of stay strong. And I would say, never stop learning. That's something that is a huge mission here at Eighth Generation that we all take very close to heart, which is, always keep an open mind and be willing to learn. I hope that those who don't know about us, enjoyed maybe learning a little bit more about us. I hope that people will, try and maybe at least be more cognizant about who they're supporting with their money. A very easy way to know if a product is featuring fake native art or if it is fake is a very simple question. And I love to tell people to please ask this question if you see some potentially questionable native arts, is you ask the gallery owner or the store owner or whoever is, has this item is who's the artist. So that is kind of my best advice for people. As they go throughout the world, there's a lot of options for what you buy and who you support. And it's really nice to know who you're supporting with your money sometimes. So just a small encouragement to keep in mind that as other people have been having a hard time, a lot of small businesses, like Eighth Generation has also been struggling. And so it's more important than ever to support small businesses this year. We've been sad to see a lot of small businesses close around us. And we're really appreciative of the support to be still here standing. And I just implore people to, really consider supporting Native artists rather than Native inspired.
I love it. I love that. Those last words. That's so important. And I just thought about this while you were talking, and I really want to say this to everyone, that the Eighth Generation blankets are not only beautiful, but they're so soft. Like, I just want to say that because, like, I never felt a wool blanket as soft as Eighth Generation blankets. So, like they're not just beautiful, they're, like, really good quality, obviously, but, for people who don't know.
Thank you for saying so. I definitely think our wool blankets are the softest I've ever felt.
Yeah.
And that's not knocking, other people's
exactly.
That's not our style.
but it's truth for what I've experienced too. So I just wanted to throw that in there because that is also very important for people choosing their wool blankets, I guess.
And additionally, you were talking about
we said the last words, like,
yeah, sorry.
There's more.
Just we said this before, but additionally, like, if you do see somebody claiming to be a native artist and they're not native, it is a federal offense.
True.
So just you could be penalized for that. There are fines, and you can face serious charges. So just keep that in mind. If you do find, if you do find somebody that's doing that, educate them about that law, and also don't do it. You just don't do it yourself. So if you're not Indigenous.
Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree. That was a really great point to make. And I encourage, people to just, if they're really looking for some, culture to become involved in, like, there's culture out there in everyone's family history. So there's no need to appropriate Native arts and culture and try and make your own version of it. There's plenty of ways to kind of celebrate your own culture. And I hope that really brings people happiness, because I know it brings a lot of Native people happiness to have culture.
I love that.
Well, thank you so much for
being
on
Thank
our podcast.
You so much. Seriously. I know we said it so many times, but, like, we really appreciate it. Like I said, I'm a huge fan. So I'm, like, fangirling right now.
Oh, well, I thought it was really awesome to meet to meet you both and to
Thank
learn
you.
about your podcast. I'm really grateful to be a part of it in the early stages.
Thank you.
Definitely wish you nothing but the best of luck.
Thank you.
I definitely think that our communities, as I mentioned before, really needs people that are uplifting each other and positively reinforcing each other and having good conversations and educating each other, keeping an open mind. So it's just been a great conversation, and thank you
Yeah.
for what you do as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, have a wonderful evening, Serene, and enjoy the holidays. And we'll talk to you soon, when we get closer to releasing.
Yes, we'll definitely talk soon.
Or just in general, if you want
yes.
to talk.
Oh my God, friend me.
Yeah, okay.
Great, you
All
guys.
right.
We'll talk later.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay,
All right, see
bye-bye.
ya. All right. Thank you so much for listening.
Yes, thank you so much. We hope you, as we always say, we hope you enjoyed that, listening to that as much as we enjoyed talking with Serene.
And if you want to learn more about them, that is 8th Generation, and go to 8thgeneration.com. There are,
me off.
yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
But I wanted to throw that out there. We didn't actually ask
True.
her what their website was. So it's 8thgeneration.com.
It's spelled out 8th.
Yeah,
Yep.
spelled out. They are on Instagram and all the,
Instagram, Facebook,
Yeah.
and the .com.
yeah. I'm pretty sure that they're on more. I really don't know.
Yeah.
We should have asked. Sorry about that. But yeah, so if you want to check out more episodes and you want to learn more about us, you could check out our website at www.asmudgeforyourthoughts.com. From there, you can find us and like us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and all the other stuff. We have our links on there. If you or anyone you know would like to be on the podcast, please fill out our simple form, which could be found on our website or on Facebook where we posted it, or you could just email us at contact@asmudgeforyourthoughts.com.
Yep. And we would like to thank Mary Kay for designing our logo. We would like to shout out 8th Generation, who we just talked. Well, we talked to someone with 8th Generation. We would like to shout them out again for this beautiful blanket that is behind us.
They did not
and-
provide this to us. We just really love them.
Yes. But if they wanted to provide us another one, they could. No, I was kidding. I mean, anyway. Just joking.
We'd also like to thank Okimauki Hugh, the late Roddy Sunchild Sr., for the words in our intro song. All right.
Yes. Well, with that, Giga Wabaman.
All right. See you later.